What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am your host, Ethan Smith, and guess what? It is Roansy Contreras Day. I'm going to be previewing the star prospect in the pitcher form for the Pittsburgh Pirates making his debut tonight against the Chicago Cubs. And I'm also going to talk about the Pirates upending the Cubs last night, and they have to go 4-1 in their last 5 to avoid 100 losses. And finally, I'm going to be evaluating the middle infield and all the options the Pirates might have heading into 2022. Today's episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. It is the first social audio platform where you can talk to fans like me and others about Pittsburgh Pirates baseball, football, basketball, UFC, whatever you want to talk about is on Spotify Green Room. So go check out one of our Locked On rooms now, and let's get right into today's episode.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast, everybody. I am your host, Ethan Smith, coming at you today from outside. We're in a little bit of nature today, and it is day 2 of YouTube here on the Locked On Pirates podcast. I hope you all are having a phenomenal Wednesday, September 29th, as am I. We have 2 more days until we get to the month of October. The Pirates have 5 more games left on the season. But as you heard in the intro, it's Roansy Day, guys. I've been talking about Roansy Contreras all year, and news came out yesterday that he will be making his Pittsburgh Pirates debut tonight against the Chicago Cubs. It came as kind of a shock to me. I'm not going to lie. It did come to kind of a shock at the fact that the Pirates are going to at least test the waters here with Roansy Contreras. I do think he's a prime candidate to be a starting pitcher next year in 2022, and we're going to get our first taste of him, of course. If you don't really know about Roansy Contreras, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about Roansy Contreras, but I also want to say thank you guys for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, as you always do. And Roansy Contreras, let's get into it. That Pirates trade for Jameson Taillon is starting to look better and better by the day. Of course, Miguel Escato, Miguel Escato, Miguel Yajure, Roansy Contreras, and yeah, that was pretty much, and Kanan Smith-Njigba were all picked up for Jameson Taillon this past offseason. It kind of hurt a little bit to see Jameson Taillon go. He was a very good pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates for a hot second, and I mean, realistically, it was his time to go. I mean, he's done okay for the New York Yankees this year. They look like they're primed to be in the playoffs after that deal was made. They also have Clay Holmes now, who's become kind of a mainstay from the Pittsburgh Pirates also. But Roansy Contreras and Miguel Yajure will now both be integral parts of that trade because we're going to get to see both of them now. We've already got to see Miguel Yajure in some stints. He has been injured at some points, but he's looked pretty okay. He's looked pretty good. And now we're going to see what we get from Contreras. And talking more about Contreras, 6 foot, 175, typical pitcher build. But when you look at the grades that he has right now, he is the number 7 ranked prospect in the Pirate system. I believe he is the second pitcher, only behind Quinn Priester. And right now, 60 fastball, 50 curveball, 45 slider, 55 changeup, 50 control, 50 overall. One of the good things that we've seen from Roansy Contreras this year, he knows how to strike people out, man. He has 89 strikeouts on the year. He's closing in on 300 career strikeouts in his career, including the minor leagues, sitting at 289. His ERA sits below a 3. And I mean, when you have your own day in Altoona, like when the entire team is like, oh, it's Roansy Day, that's pretty cool. Because the offense down in Altoona already knew all they really had to do was score maybe 3 or 4 runs, and it was a win as long as Roansy Contreras was in there pitching. And I also dropped a prediction on what I thought Roansy was going to do tonight. I would like to see him pitch 5 innings. I think he can give us 5 good innings of baseball. I predicted 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 earned run, and 5 innings pitched, and a 75% plus strike rate. I really think he has a chance to do it. This Cubs lineup is not what it used to be, obviously, with the fact that no more Chris Bryant, no more Javi Baez, and no more Anthony Rizzo. They also have lost 7 straight. So Roansy Contreras comes into this game really primed to succeed. And I mean, I wouldn't see why he wouldn't succeed. Of course, he looked good in the Yankees organization too, but I think he's really taken that next step as far as what he can do for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we're going to see what he can do in his debut tonight. But as I've been saying with most of the pitchers, just give me 5 good innings and I will be perfectly okay with that. And realistically as well, I mean, we got to temper expectations here with Roansy Contreras. The thing is with him is you're going to get to see him start today, but this is probably the only start he'll get. Maybe you'll see him in the Red Series, maybe in the last game of the year or something like that, but it's such a small sample size. I would really expect him to probably start the season in AAA next year, like he was already called up to AAA. That's why this was such a shock. He was only in AAA for like maybe a week or two. But the Pirates, realistically, why not get a look at the guy while you can? It's a meaningless game. Realistically, it'll just not really mean much, but it'd be nice to see him really go hard and go like really well today against a Cubs team that just isn't really that good right now. They're just not that great. And you have to also keep in mind as well that with Roansy Contreras, you just have to make sure that you don't coddle the guy. Let him go out there and pitch. He knows how to handle his fastball. His control is off the charts. I think his control being that low is actually kind of wild, and it will only continue to grow. And if he can get those strikeouts pumping and going, I mean, you looked at what the Pirates did yesterday. They gave up 6 runs on 12 hits, but I don't think Roansy's going to give up that many hits. Maybe 4 or 5. That's where I'd cap him out at. And it's very exciting. I mean, you have to look at the general scope of what this means for the Pirates. They're getting almost an immediate impact from the Jameson Taillon trade. The other trades that they've made, like Adam Frazier and Clay Holmes and Josh Bell, we've seen Will Crow, but Will Crow not looking like the future here in Pittsburgh too much. But I mean, you have other guys that we're going to talk about later, like a Tucupita Marcano, who also has a chance to make a big splash next year. Michael Escato has a big chance to also do that as well. But Miguel Yajure and Roansy Contreras have taken the prospect pool by storm, and Miguel Yajure as well started pretty much right up here. And I mean, you look at the prospect of the possibility that Roansy Contreras could also start next year at the major league level, that you're talking about a rotation of Mitch Keller, JT Brubaker, Bryce Wilson, Stephen Brault, and Roansy Contreras. And that's not including guys like Max Kranick and a Cody Ponce that you could also throw in there as well, and a Will Crow, because, I mean, they're not just going to give up on Will Crow. They traded for the guy. They're not just going to give up on him, and he's still relatively young. But realistically, I want to know what you guys think Roansy Contreras is going to do today after this episode is up on Twitter. Of course, that game kicks off at 6:35 tonight, and it should be a pretty fun one. I mean, all I'm looking for from Contreras, he doesn't even have to pitch out of this world. Just give me 5 quality innings of baseball. I think he only gives up 1 run today. I think he's going to look really good, and I'd love to see him again as well outside of this Cup series. But now is as good as time as ever to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Spotify Green Room is the first social audio platform that brings sports fans together. It is now on iOS and Android devices. You can find one of our Locked On rooms whenever I'm on, whenever Christopher Carter of Locked On Steelers, Hunter Hodes of Locked On Penguins are on, that you can find them on there as well. Plenty of celebrities like Kendrick Perkins and old former players have been on Spotify Green Room as well. Again, it's the first social audio platform that brings football, baseball, basketball, UFC, hockey fans, even soccer fans together. And I've been in really fun rooms where we get into some debates that last for hours, and you can start those debates right now on the free Spotify Green Room app on your iOS or Android device. Today's episode is also brought to you by betonline.ag. Of course, you can use the promo code LOCKEDON right there. And you know, betonline.ag is the best place to do all of your sports betting. We're back in better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, and they are your online sportsbook experts. And make sure you use that promo code LOCKED ON. Sorry, I'm trying to point at it. Again, we're going to get this opposite day thing figured out. But when you use that promo code locked on at betonline.ag, you will get a 50% welcome bonus, meaning they will practically give you half of the money that you deposit onto betonline.ag to bet on football, baseball, basketball, hockey. They're all about to be happening pretty much at the same time anyways, so you might as well go win yourself some money on betonline.ag. Now, getting into the second part of today's episode, I'm going to talk about this game yesterday. De Los Santos picked up the victory for the Pittsburgh Pirates, an 8-6 victory. Chris Stratton picked up his 7th save. Colin Moran, we literally just talked about Colin Moran on the podcast yesterday and about if he can stay healthy, that he's a real candidate to be a future first baseman here for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But we look at the scoring yesterday. Of course, Colin Moran homered to center pretty much off rip, made it 3-3. The Cubs fought back. They were up 6-3. This game was just like a pendulum swinging back and forth. And then the Pirates started to come back in the sixth. The sixth inning was their big comeback. Gamble had the sacrifice fly to center. Hoy Park tripled to deep center. Moran scored on Stalling scored. And then Michael Chavis was back. Michael Chavis came back and did some good things. And then Colin Moran said he wasn't done there and singled another run in the 7th inning. And that's how the game went for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And as mentioned, they have to go 4-1 in their final 5 games now to avoid 100 losses. Also, by the way, shouts out to all of you over 58.5 bettors out there. Really good to see you guys get yourself some money. But if we look at the pitchers and the matchups that we're going to be seeing for these last 5 games, of course, you have Roansy Contreras going against Kyle Hendricks tonight as I'm looking at all these stuff right now. Tomorrow, you're going to see Justin Steele versus TBA, so we don't really know who's pitching tomorrow. And then the Red Series comes, and it looks like it's going to be Will Crow and Luis Castillo. And then Saturday will be Tyler Mahle versus Max Kranick. And then Sunday, we'll see what happens, but there's nobody slated yet for either team. So the Pirates, I mean, if they play anything like they did yesterday, they have a real shot to make this a actual prospect that they don't lose 100 games. And I've said it, 99 losses or 100 losses, it's not going to matter. It just really isn't in the grand scheme of things. But it's one of those kind of, oh, you're not going to go down in the history books as one of the teams that lost 100 games. And I mean, if they sweep the Cubs, I definitely think they have a real shot at it, because then they could beat the Reds 2 out of 3 games. And the Reds, of course, after the St. Louis Cardinals won their 17th straight game last night. Yes, that was not a typo. That was not me misspeaking. That was 17 straight wins for the St. Louis Cardinals. That virtually eliminated the Cincinnati Reds from playoff contention last night. It also eliminated, I believe, the Philadelphia Phillies as well. I'm not really sure. It removed them from the wild card. The Phillies' only chance now of making the playoffs is if they can beat Atlanta 2 out of 3 games and then make some other things happen as well. But the real crazy race, of course, going on right now is over there in the American League. The Seattle Mariners, who the Pirates traded Tyler Anderson to at are currently a half game back in the wild card. But we're talking about the Pirates here today, and we're going to preview tonight's game as well, not only with Roansy Contreras, but again, if Roansy Contreras can do what he was doing in the minor leagues tonight and the offense could be anything like it was last night, expect the Pirates to pull out a series win. And again, the Cubs, as I mentioned before, have lost 7 straight, and they have not looked good doing it. They just lost their 90th game last night, so the NL Central will now have 2 teams with 90 losses, which was probably something people didn't expect until after the Cubs traded everyone, and then most people even still expected them to stay afloat. But this recent 7-game losing streak has been a big reason why they're at that point now. But these two teams are on very similar trajectories, I would think. I mean, the Cubs, of course, traded for Nick Madrigal, but you haven't really seen the effects of that because Madrigal is out all year. So both teams are in that rebuilding state. The Cubs, of course, have the advantage over the Pirates of being able to spend money and all that stuff. But we'll see. I think both of these teams by 2023 will probably be right back in the NL Central conversation once again. But if we're talking about what the Pirates need to do to win tonight. Again, as I mentioned in segment 1, we need Roansy Contreras to give us 5 good innings. We need to see something really nice from him there. Also, we need to really see the pitching staff as well after Contreras leaves a game, because I don't expect him to pitch a complete game tonight. As soon as he leaves a game, we have to make sure that the bullpen limits the Cubs offense, because yesterday it was the opposite. The bullpen actually did really well, and I liked what I saw. But if Contreras does anything last night like we did yesterday, we can't fall behind and keep expecting to beat the Cubs. But a fun story, by the way, the Pirates now have 10 multi-run comeback wins this year, which I believe is second in baseball. So that's always fun to talk about, considering 10 out of their 59 wins are from the comeback. And I mean, there's been some very fun comebacks this year, but tonight you can't fall behind. Kyle Hendricks is a really good pitcher. I mean, 14-7, 4.81 ERA. I mean, almost 130 strikeouts on the year, only 43 walks, and he's given up 31 home runs. That's kind of been his Achilles heel, and that's where I'll get into my next takeaway from what they need to do tonight is hit the home run ball. Colin Moran did it last night early. Brian Reynolds, I expect him to be able to do the same thing as well. And Brian Reynolds knocking on the door of 90 RBIs and 25 home runs. He needs 1 home run and 2 more RBIs, so that's something to watch as well. And then again, as I said yesterday, lean on your good offensive players. Colin Moran, Brian Reynolds, Ke'Bryan Hayes, Yoshi Tsutsugo has even showed out as he's been on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We talked about him on yesterday's podcast as well. And I mean, again, that's pretty much the takeaway I have about this, even through today and tomorrow, is tomorrow's game as well. Justin Steele, he's not that great, but he's looked pretty good for the most part. I mean, 4.86 ERA, and we don't know who's going to be on the mound tomorrow for the Pirates either, but whoever it is, we cannot fall behind in these games. And then especially against the Cincinnati Reds to end the year this weekend, you really can't fall behind that team because that offense is not like the Cubs. It's not going to just falter when it gets up. It's going to keep scoring runs, and we saw that on Monday when they beat us 13-1. Thank God that the final 3 games are in PNC Park, so maybe we'll actually have a reason to watch, right, guys? But again, this Cubs-Pirates series, as I believe me and Gary talked about a while ago, it's kind of a measuring stick to see where you're at in the rebuild. And the Pirates won it this time after, we all remember that horrendous Cubs series that they had a while back in Wrigley Field where they lost 2 games by 1 run and the other 2 by 3 runs, and were finding every way imaginable to lose. I'm talking to you, Wilmer Defoe. But if they win tonight, get another series win under their belt, they've been playing the best baseball they've been playing all year in months of September and the end of August. So I've really liked what I've seen from them. But do they have a chance to sweep here too? The Pirates have not gotten a sweep this year, but do they have the chance to do it? That's really the question. And obviously that's starts with getting a win tonight. Kyle Hendricks and the Chicago Cubs. Roansy Contreras, this is the last time I'll mention him today, even though he is the main talk of the day. I'm wishing you all the luck in the world, bro. I hope you do amazing here at Locked On Pirates. We all hope you do amazing. And of course, I will be recapping his performance tomorrow on the podcast. But now is a great time to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar, of course, is the best tasting protein bar on the entire market. Built Bar has so many amazing, delicious flavors ranging from cookies and cream, German chocolate, cherry barca, coconut cream, all that good stuff. And if you want to try their 9 different flavors, you should get a mix box where you'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. So you get 18 Built Bars. Can't go wrong there. Not only are Built Bars amazingly tasty as well, they're also healthy for you. They have calories ranging from 130 to 180 calories, only 3 to 5 grams of net sugar and net carbs, and they're also really good snacks for you. Like when I'm at work, like I'm at work right now recording for you guys, I usually snag a Built Bar after I eat some of my food just to keep me going throughout the rest of the day. It's great, too, if you want to eat something and not fill yourself up before dinner. Built Bar, of course, is also the sponsor of the U.S. track and field team from this past Olympics. Pretty cool, right? And when you head to BuiltBar.com right now and use the promo code LOCKED15 right there where my name is and my Twitter is, you will get 15% off of your next order when you invest in the best tasting protein bars on the market. Had a little tongue twister there, but that is Built Bar. And make sure that you tell them that Ethan Smith of Locked On Pirates sent you. And to cap off today's episode, I, as always, want to thank you guys for listening today on wherever you're listening, however you're listening. I really appreciate it. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Pirates on Twitter, or follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan. We're going to talk about the middle infield today. And realistically, the middle infield was probably the most turnovered position that we saw from the Pirates this year, realistically. And the reason I say that is because you look at the beginning of the year, it was Adam Frazier and Kevin Newman. Those are the guys that were there. That was what was going on until you kind of got the idea that with Adam Frazier having a career season, he was going to be traded. He eventually got traded to the San Diego Padres, who shouts out to Javier Reyes for getting through whatever in the world the Padres have been doing over the last month and a half. Of course, they're missing the playoffs, which is unfortunate because a lot of people did want to see that really fun team make the playoffs, as I did as well. And I was hoping Adam Frazier was going to get his first taste of playoff baseball, but he will not. But after Adam Frazier left, you really started to see a lot of different names come through this middle infield. Kevin Newman was kind of the mainstay. He's been one of the defensive catcher or best defensive shortstops. We do have a great defensive catcher in Jacob Stallings, who I talked about yesterday. But Kevin Newman, he's been phenomenal defensively as a shortstop this year. His bat, of course, wasn't what it was in spring training. I think a lot of people forget he broke the spring training batting record this season, but it didn't translate to the regular season at all, which is unfortunate. He did pick it up a little bit over some recent months, but it's still not near what it needs to be. But I do think he will be the starter in 2022, barring something insane. I don't think he's a trade candidate. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So barring anything crazy, I think you can expect Kevin Newman to be your starting shortstop next year. But then second base was really where things started to get kind of into a logjam, especially after a lot of the trades were made. Before the trades were made, I think we all remember the Mets series where Rodolfo Castro kind of had his coming out party and was just torching the Mets in every fathomable way possible. And Rodolfo Castro, young player, has some raw power. I just think he needs to fix not trying to hit for power every single time he hits the baseball. He needs to kind of a little bit, be a little bit more disciplined at the plate. His strikeouts are a little bit of an issue. We've seen really good things out of Rodolfo Castro, though, at AA and AAA this year when he's been at both spots and at the major league level. So I'd give him a pretty good grade this year on the season. I evaluated him. I thought he did pretty well. And the trades came where you see Tucupita Marcano, another guy last year who I mentioned that we already picked up. Michael Escato is another guy there. We see O'Neal Cruz at shortstop banging on the door. He's at AAA right now, too, and some people thought he might get a call up to Pittsburgh here for these final couple games. I don't see that happening. I think they're going to start him in AAA next year and evaluate it through the season. And not only that, but Liover Peguero and Nick Gonzalez are the future of this middle infield from what it looks like as of right now. If both guys pan out down there in Greensboro, of course, Greensboro going off on a little tangent. Greensboro lost to Bowling Green last night 6-2 and couldn't secure the second trophy in the Pirates minor league system this year. Shouts out to the Bradenton Marauders for winning in the low A division. But you already can see that this middle infield is pretty stacked as of right now. Nick Gonzalez, Liover Peguero, O'Neal Cruz, Michael Escato, Rodolfo Castro, and then you added Michael Chavis in a trade basically for free. Michael Chavis was a draft pick from current Pirates general manager Ben Cherington, and Chavis, again, he has had his ups and downs. He was in AAA for most of the time. I think they're just trying to get him adjusted to what's going on in the Pirates organization and try to get a gauge on where he's going to be at. If they do get rid of Yoshi Tsutsugo, I could almost bet that he would be a backup first baseman to Colin Moran, which I'd have really no issues with because I really like Chavis's game, and I think he can do well at first base or second base or wherever they decide to play him. But all the names that I just mentioned, and I still haven't gotten into Hoy Park. Hoy Park the other day and last night had a really good game. He was a pickup from the Yankees as well. Tons of pickups from the Yankees might be playing tonight. Hoy Park, Roansy Contreras, Miguel Yajure will be in the bullpen, but he won't be playing. But the Yankees have their stamp written all over this Pirates organization as of right now. And Hoy Park, again, defensively, he's kind of lackluster. I think he needs to stay at second base. I never see him being a shortstop. I think he has to stay at second base or move to the outfield if he wants to do anything like that. I really hope that he works on his defensive game in the offseason. I think his hitting can improve as well. But he's still relatively young. I believe he's 25, so he still has plenty of time to figure it out. But it's also the idea that you look at the logjam of Hoy Park, and then I've already mentioned Rodolfo Castro, Michael Chavis, guys like that. But you have guys knocking on the door next year. Tucupita Marcano will be knocking on the door. Kevin Newman, his job might be safe for now. It might be safe on opening day. I can guarantee you by June or July, if he's doing the same thing he did this year, it won't be as safe as you guys think it will be, or if anybody thinks it will be. And a lot of people I've seen want Kevin Newman gone. They want to do all this nonsense where let's just move on from him now. But why? His defense is just so good that you don't need to move on from him right now. Wilmer Defoe, he's probably gone next year. Cole Tucker is kind of the enigma of all this because, again, as I mentioned yesterday with Yoshi Tsutsugo, that's going to be a really tough decision for the Pittsburgh Pirates about giving him and keeping him on the 40-man roster because he hasn't looked particularly great, But over the last couple weeks, he's made a case, man. He's made a case for himself to really possibly get playing time, not only just be here next year, but get playing time next year. And that's a really big prospect for him. I mean, he was a former first-round pick. He has the hair. He has the personality. He has everything you need. He just has to improve his game. That's really all it is. And improve your hitting, dude. He just needs to improve on a lot of things. But do the Pirates give him a 40-man roster spot with all of these other options that they have at the table? Eric Gonzalez is already gone. I mean, you've already seen a lot of these guys get pushed to the side for the young talent that's coming. I can almost guarantee you that Tucupita Marcano will be in a Pittsburgh Pirates uniform next year. He's basically Adam Frazier 2.0 at a much cheaper price. You're going to probably see him next year. Cole Tucker, where does he fit into all this? That's one of the biggest questions that I've brought up all year. That's one of the biggest questions I'll continue to bring up through the offseason, depending on what they do. If they don't give him a 40-man roster spot, so be it. That just means that another domino falls. But also make sure that you make sure, as I said that correctly, that you make the right decisions when handing out these 40-man roster spots. Make sure that you're picking the right guys. Michael Chavis deserves a 40-man roster spot. Kevin Newman deserves a 40-man roster spot. O'Neal Cruz deserves a 40-man roster spot. Tucupita Marcano, Michael Escato, those guys deserve it. Nick Gonzalez and Leo Verpagero, I think, are still a little bit too far away to where you really have to worry about that right now. But Cole Tucker's on the bubble. Hoy Park, I think they'll keep him, but you could also make the case that he's on the bubble. Rodolfo Castro, where does he fit into all this after having an impressive stint with the Pirates and then even more impressive stints in the minor leagues? The middle infield is the biggest question mark to me going into – it's like a question mark as to who's going to be there, not a big question mark as in terms of how good is it going to be. It's a question mark of how going to be there. You know Kevin Newman's going to be the starting shortstop in 2022. I don't think anybody's denying that, and I will deny it until I see it. I won't deny it until I see him gone. That's just how that is. And second base, if I had to guess, Michael Chavis probably, or maybe Tucupita Marcano, but I still think they take a long look at him in AAA before they make that move. Or maybe you even go out and sign a veteran that you can trade around the deadline when you think these guys are ready. Hoy Park has a good chance of doing it. Rodolfo Castro. It's really all going to be on who impresses in training camp and spring training the most. That's really where this is going to come down to, and I have no issue with that. Make the position competitive. Make the position competitive. You should. Why shouldn't you? I mean, it's one of your strong suits as of right now in terms of the options that you have. I said the same thing about pitching the other day with Gary, and he said the same thing. Having options when you're a rebuilding team is the best thing you can do. And you know why it's the best thing you can do? Because it gives you a good hard look at everything that you have available right now. You can't do that really with the outfield. You know you have Alford right now, but is Anthony Alford really going to be here in 2022 for that long? He has a chance to be. I don't expect him to be here that long. Ben Gamble and Brian Reynolds are your only givens in the outfield right now. You're going to probably see Travis Swaggerty, but we're going to talk about evaluating the outfield on tomorrow's episode, along with evaluating Key Brian Hayes' full rookie season on tomorrow's episode. But the middle infield, man, I really want to know your guys' thoughts about the middle infield. I'll ask a question about it. I'll ask a poll, maybe picking 4 different duos that you could see at second base and shortstop next year, or even an other option that you guys think could be available. And there's a real prospect the Pirates could go out and sign a guy at second base and then trade him at the deadline, just like they did with Frazier this year. Maybe he has a good first half, whoever it is, and then you trade him away, and that's that, and you pick up more prospects. But the middle infield, though, as of how we've seen things, it's been relatively good this year. I don't have any issue with what I've seen from it. I don't think anybody should really have any issue from what they see with it. And I enjoyed seeing all the different names because most of them, although they didn't play all that great all the time, have real potential here in the future. And that's what all this is about here at Locked On Pirates, is potential in the future. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today on the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most. You can follow me on Twitter at Locked On Pirates and at MVP_Ethan. You can follow this podcast now on YouTube, Odyssey, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We're hitting you Monday through Friday until the off season. But guys, tomorrow, as I said, we will be recapping Roansy Contreras' first MLB start, highlighting and evaluating Ke'Bryan Hayes' full rookie season and evaluating the outfield from what I saw this year. And then on Friday, we're going to evaluate the coaching staff and recap the Cubs series and take a look at the final series of the season against the Cincinnati Reds. But until then, you guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until then, see you on the flip side.